Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Roxy Davis. I'm the CEO of Sally Ann Creed. And today we have Simone online with us. Simone is a registered dietitian and nutritional and lifestyle consultant. And I'm really excited to be chatting to her today. So thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Roxy. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be part of it.
So today we've selected the topic of optimal nutrition for mental health. And I think it's a really important topic to be discussing at the moment, because really nutrition is at the center or at the heart of what we do and how we support or better support our bodies. And through the time that we are going through right now, it is really critical to be taking a deeper look into our nutrition and making sure that we are supporting our body with everything it needs. So I have some questions that I'd love to ask you. How has this pandemic affected us in terms of our mental health, and how does that relate to our nutrition?
So basically, with the pandemic, as everyone knows, obviously the horrible deaths, the economic strife that it's caused, and limitations on social interaction. And with that, all of those things has led to a lot of stress, fear, anxiety, isolation, loneliness, depression, sleep disturbances, financial stress, job loss, sadness, frustration, all of those feelings that I think I can safely say someone has felt in this pandemic, at least one of them, if not many. And so the World Health Organization actually recently said that anxiety and depression are one of the most common health conditions worldwide. And it could be one of the top health concerns in the world by 2030. And those predictions also are based on the fact that experts say that sadly the pandemic and the mental health problems that it's caused are actually not going to be rectified when it leaves, because of all the damage it's done. And just with depression and anxiety and mental health problems, I think there's a lot of stigma attached to it. And now with it being so much more, unfortunately, prevalent, there is slowly starting to be less stigma. But I mean, the definition of depression is just prolonged sadness, which I feel like most of us have felt at some point in our lives. Does that make us depressed? No. It can be seen as like almost a feeling or a state of mind. So I'd like to chat about it with that in mind, rather than the label of you're depressed or you have anxiety. It's a feeling, it's something we experience. As well as anxiety, it's like an intense, excessive, persistent worry or fear about everyday situations, which does happen to all of us. Are we all clinically diagnosed as an anxiety disorder? No. So I'd just like to move away from that school of thought, because it can be very self-limiting.
I think a lot of people are, like you said, they've had some or many of those that you've mentioned. And I mean, I know for myself and for my network of friends and family, it's almost like it comes in possibly waves. So you might have, some of these feelings and then those subside, and then you go through, some of the other feelings. And it does sometimes feel like there isn't an end, or you don't know what's coming up next, or is the next wave going to be bigger? And I mean, it's those things, like you say, the prolonged time that we are going through something like this pandemic, that does have a definite effect on your mental health. But I think also what's important, like you said, is, do we label it for ourselves as we're going through a period of heightened anxiety? Does that make us label ourselves as having an anxiety disorder. So I think there's a differentiating factors that would say this is a justified period of anxiety, which we are all going through, and this is something else.
Exactly. And the pandemic is such an abnormal time that no one could have actually, like, obviously the world had never experienced something like this. And no one could have anticipated or so I think it's also a really great opportunity to, firstly, for people to speak openly more about I don't want to even say like, mental health rather than mental disease, and as well as build resilience, and realize that anything can happen. And
how does one build a resilience and adapt to this time that we're in? I mean, what are some of the tools that they could put into their toolkit in terms of making sure that they are healthy and well in terms of their mental health?
So I think one of the number one kind of tools that some people struggle with is to reach out to your network. It's much easier to say I'm doing fine than not fine and I'm struggling. And yeah, that just even though it's obviously in waves and in lockdown, we were limited in terms of how much interaction we can have with people. And even over the phone, sometimes there is that like not that connection that we have face to face, but still to utilize your network and relationships and people around you. And as well as in terms of just building resilience, like to really look after yourself, I think, in terms of diet, exercise, checking in with yourself, where you're at, and being aware of that. I was listening to this really amazing podcast the other day where it spoke about kind of just mindfulness and how people lose complete touch with their bodies, like where it comes to a point where your body gets, and I know this sounds a little bit strange, but your body gets angry with you in certain ways when you don't listen to it, whether it be emotions, hunger, physical pain, and yeah, I think that is a way to build resilience, is being gentle to yourself in the same way.
And what when you talk about ways that your body can get angry with you, what would those be? I mean, how would somebody recognize that happening?
So, for example, the specific one was about like emotional eating and binge eating. So, for example, if you don't eat all day or don't drink water, or then like suddenly at night you're just starving and you eat everything in the fridge, and your body's angry with you because you didn't listen to the signals. Or you eat all day and you're actually not hungry and you're not listening to your body, and you pick up severe amounts of weight. You could develop like a health problem, and your body's angry with you because you're not listening to it. And I think in terms of listening to emotions and dealing with them and being conscious, like bringing that awareness, it can also manifest in like other ways, like sudden, say, outbursts of emotion, or like crying for no reason, or not being able to sleep, or like severe anxiety, and for like a reason you can't put your finger on it. You're like, those are ways your body can kind of be angry with you.
So things that are out of the ordinary, I guess, just listening to your body and listening to what it's trying to tell you.
exactly.
Wow. Sure. How interesting. And I mean, I know you've spoken about diet, exercise, checking in. So in terms of checking in with your body to make sure that you're on track and you're taking care of it in the way that you.
Yeah, and I'm really a big believer in some type of like self-care, and just to show you that you care about yourself, if that makes sense. And I know it's easy for me to say because I don't have kids, but just to like make a time where you do something that, you know, is for you, whether it's like painting your nails or taking a walk, or lying in the sun in summer, or just something that like treats your soul, it's so important. It's kind of like having a relationship with yourself, you know, like you want to do things for people that you love, but you have to do things for yourself to build that relationship.
Absolutely. I feel like there are so many of us that are so busy with how busy life is, and especially through this time of a pandemic, that we, you know, focusing on making sure that our kids are okay and our families are okay, and, you know, we working hard, and the last thing that ends up being taken care of is yourself. And we almost feel like we should just be okay with that. But if you don't fill up your own cup and allow for your cup to overflow, it's the overflow that can help others. So if your cup is empty, you've got nothing to give.
Exactly.
As you say, it's so important.
And it can actually, I mean, I gave examples of someone that doesn't have a kid or any children or a family, but you can, I mean, it can be something. As one person once said to me, I love sorting out my cupboard, like rearranging my cupboard when my kids are sleeping. And I said, well, if you love that and that like feeds your soul, why don't you do things like that? That like, obviously you are doing something that, you know, like is constructive in terms of the household, but it's for you and you identify it as something for you. And yeah,
I can relate with my Tupperware cupboard. I feel like I won the lotto when my Tupperware is sorted out.
Yeah. Or if it's like labeling your Tupperwares or your like food cupboard, that's great.
Small wins. So there's a lot of conversation around nutrition and mental health and the whole gut-brain axis. Can you share with us a bit more about the data or that's coming out around how interlinked the gut and the brain is in terms of mental health and well-being?
So it's very interesting because it's kind of like the importance of gut health has just become such a focus in, say, the last 5 to 10 years, where now the gut is referred to as the second brain because it is involved in every process in the body. So, for example, when you feel stressed, you feel it in your gut. When you have a meal that makes you sometimes feel happy, and there's that link. And obviously research and scientists have kind of solidified that link and why that happens. And basically it's because your hormones and your immune system are all affected by communication between your brain and your gut, and it's bidirectional. So your brain communicates with your gut and vice versa. And so the basic reason for it is when we're born and when like we start to grow as an embryo, and the cells divide, and it literally goes from your brain and separates to your gut, which is still, when you actually become an adult, it's still linked by a very big nerve called the vagus nerve. And so it's basically the same cluster of tissue that differentiates after time. And as well as, there's a very important hormone that a lot of people sometimes struggle with, neurotransmitter called serotonin, which is 95% of the body's serotonin is found in the digestive tract.
Wow.
So there again, the link between the gut and the brain is so important because it's the feel-good hormone, but it's also linked to anxiety, mood, and then functional gut problems with an imbalance in serotonin. It's also an important neurotransmitter for digestive functioning and communication between the brain and the gut, and plays a part in motility and sensitivity and secretion of fluids. So it's not just the feel-good hormone that everyone thinks it is. So basically, your brain affects your gut, and your gut affects your brain, and inside your gut you get thousands of different types of bacteria and fungi, and that's called the microbiome, which is where all the research is in, because you get a balance of bacteria in your gut, which is why some people take probiotics. And the microbiome is basically the most essential form of immunity and all sorts of things for yourself. Like it impacts the balance impacts your digestion, nutrient absorption, as well as brain function. So actually, just like treating the health of your gut can influence your brain health, which is incredible. And then with the microbiome, it's actually also highly influenced by genetics, which obviously is very individualized. So us at the practice, we do intensive genetics testing, and it can be really, really useful to see what particular genes you have that can influence your gut and the behavior in your gut, and the link of that to your brain.
In terms of your gut health, I mean, you're sharing, so everybody genetically is unique in terms of their particular gut health and then subsequent gut needs. So for us, we are always strong advocates of, a good prebiotic, your gut food, a good probiotic, fermented foods, and just supporting your gut. What other things would you advise people to do to take care of their gut that is specifically unique to them? So when they're looking at their bodies and saying, all right, my gut might be out of sync, or my gut health might be out of sync, how do I identify that it is, and what should I do to get it back on track?
So other just small things that can help feed your gut is drinking enough fluid. So they have water to live, and think of them as like little animals. Exercise also really helps just like feed the bacteria in your gut. As you mentioned, fruit and vegetables actually also provide like food for the gut in forms of fiber, but as well as the just the way they function in the gut. And then you actually get things that also kill the good bacteria in your gut, which I find really shocking, that you can actually kill them. That's not just antibiotics. Sorry, another obviously important thing is just if you are on any medication that could be interfering with your gut bacteria, it's important to look at that. So like antibiotics can obviously kill the good bacteria.
What else can kill the good bacteria?
So highly processed foods,
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, any, like pies, cookies, just anything made in a factory that's so far from how it looks in nature. And sugar can kill, and refined carbs can kill the good bacteria and actually feed the bad bacteria. And the bad bacteria are necessary, but in a balance. So if it's killing the one and growing the others, just, yeah. So sugar is just something that really can cause complete havoc. And obviously, if you have some type of food sensitivity, that can, but that really needs to properly be looked at with a health professional rather than self-diagnosis. So I don't want to mention any food sensitivities. And then just like stress management, and obviously sleep, just really can destroy your gut. We often get patients that are so stressed and sometimes eat badly, sometimes don't, but they have a terrible gut functioning. So it is really important to look at all those things too.
You've mentioned genetics play an important role in gut health, which would affect your brain as well. Can you share a bit more about what you do? I know you and James Raff work closely together with regards to focusing on one's individual genetics. Just share with us a bit more about that.
So basically, modern medicine was developed on, let's say, mostly one size fits all approaches. And what we do is a very actually simple genetics swab that gives us a really detailed panel on high priority areas that specifically from your genes need work. Just to backtrack, your genetics are the blueprint that make Roxy, Simone, James, and you can't change those. You can't change your blueprint as much as anti-vaxxers will say you can't. So basically, if you identify your high risk areas, for example, cholesterol, vascular health, collagen and bone joints, and those types of things, you know where your weak points are. And so we say G genetics times E equals P phenotype. So G environment and phenotype. And so the only thing that is in your control is your environment. So your diet, your lifestyle, your supplements, and your exercise. And so it gives us a really detailed, specific plan for you to optimize your environment, to optimize your phenotype or your outcome. And so, yeah, that's what we do. And the field is growing exponentially, and it's incredible. And the amount of research and the way the world's turning. I mean, you even get a field called pharmacogenomics now, where a person, and it's big overseas, where you can actually test, someone's how easily someone or how well someone would react to specific medications, and whether they wouldn't or it wouldn't be helpful for them, which obviously is really beneficial. But we look at diet, lifestyle, and equipping people to become the best versions of themselves and live the healthiest life they can live without developing any problems.
So essentially, your genetics are, or your genetic makeup is not something that you can change, but your environment is something that you can control and make changes in, which would potentially would change the outcome of the course of direction that you are on.
Exactly. And so I mean, obviously, I can look at my environment and change everything. But with a genetics test, we come out with 3 micro, and we focus on micro behavior change. So just small things that you can do to optimize your outcome. So instead of saying, oh, like I need to cut out dairy and only eat salmon and green leafy vegetables and this and this and this and this and this, it can be so overwhelming. So we try and make it simple by getting the priority areas and then just the small tiny tweaks to optimize your outcome, and it works.
What I love about it is
massive changes.
I think big changes are quite scary for people. So the moment you hear somebody say, well, you have to make these big changes, they like start to backtrack. And what I also love about it is, so the idea of small changes, which seem more manageable, less chance to set yourself up for failure and disappointment, which could send you in another spiral. But also if you're having a more targeted approach, it's not like a shot in the dark. It's not like you're saying, okay, today I'm going to take a guess at the areas of change I should make in my life. And you can make all these big changes, but it's not going to have necessarily have an effective outcome on your specific genetics. So like you said, it's not a one size fits all. We've spoken about how the gut is linked to the brain and the food that we can, or what we can do to feed our gut for better gut health. What food can we eat to feed our brain?
Before I say this, I'd like to just reiterate what you said on just a tiny micro change. And that we kind of focus our principle based on that principle of tiny habits, where you anchor your new habit on something that you do already. So for example, I'm going to talk about quality fats. You, Roxy, have oats every morning for breakfast. Quality fats, all you do is you anchor your new behavior on what you're already doing. So adding a teaspoon of Creed Living nut butter to your oats to add the quality fat. So I'm going to mention a whole lot of things, and if people just can do 1 or 2, and that's how behavior change starts. So basically, quality fats, the brain is 60% fat, and obviously you don't feed your kidney with kidney, but your brain does need healthy fats to function. So that's nuts, seeds, olives, olive oil, avocado, oily fish. And then ketones are produced by the liver, by the breakdown of fats too, and they can provide your brain with up to 70% of its energy needs. Just quickly to go to your brain's energy needs and how important all these nutrients are. Basically, the brain represents 2% of your total body weight, but it accounts for 20% of your body's energy needs. So if you put that in relativity of like weight to energy use, it uses 10% 10 times more energy than any other organ or system in your body. So this is where fueling it, like anxiety, depression, like aside, is just so important for your overall health. So yeah, quality fats, and And then omega-3s, which are anti-inflammatory and really are like the basis of healthy brain, cell membranes, and effective neuron communication, which are the messengers in your brain and the signals in your brain. And so omega-3s are in fatty fish, like I mentioned, salmon, sardines, mackerel, chia seeds, flax seeds, and then walnuts, and for people that don't eat fish. But it is often a thing, omega-3s are often very, let's say, even if you eat sushi twice a week, it's just got such small amounts of salmon in it. So it is really one of the things that we make most people go on a good quality supplement of omega-3, just because it kind of benefits your heart and it just covers everything.
There isn't a day I don't go without my omegas, my supplements.
Same. It's really like, if you had to choose one supplement, in my opinion, it's the one you should choose. And then high quality protein. So proteins are made up of amino acids, which are put together to make neurotransmitters, which are the signaling messengers in your brain, like GABA, which is like the relaxation one, dopamine, which is the happy neurotransmitter, melatonin, which is for sleep. And with good quality protein, it's important to just focus on quality. That's what I said, quality. So grass-fed meats, pastured chicken, wild caught fish, not always easy to source, but we are lucky in South Africa that we have, and specifically Cape Town, that we have availability to that. Then antioxidants, so vitamin C, E, beta carotene.
Just for the protein, in terms of protein supplementation, so if somebody was needing additional support, for example, we're always strong advocates of collagen. So our pure hydrolyzed collagen, like you said, non-GMO, grass-fed. And I know that that's something that you regularly recommend as well.
Yeah, definitely. And specifically for people that are exercising a lot, or just struggling to get enough protein in, or even good sources of protein, just a whey protein. And I know your whey protein is a grass-fed whey protein, or a good quality vegan protein for vegans can be beneficial in terms of supplementation, and offer the same benefits as most of the same benefits as a good quality protein for this specific purpose. And so then another one would be antioxidants, which prevent oxidative stress that can lead to DNA damage and conditions that can result in conditions like depression and anxiety. So fruit and vegetables, colorful fruit and vegetables are rich in antioxidants. So just to include, we like to call it the robot, red, orange, green, and as much color in your diet as possible. Color not from knickknacks, from fruit and vegetables.
We actually do that. We do that with our kids, and we started from a really young age, where we would do the robot colors on their plate, and we would chop up the peppers and the tomato and the cucumber and all the veg. And it became an enjoyable and fun dinner time when it was multicolored. And it's taken them through, our kids are 8, 4, and 1, and all 3 of them eat that. So when they have their lunchbox, it's like a red pepper in the lunchbox as an option, or they'll choose that over, something else that is, like you said, maybe they'll choose that over something that's made in the factory. So just creating those tiny habits from a young age.
It's so important, Roxy, because I've often seen that people that have aversions to to specifically vegetables, most people like most fruit, just didn't get them when they were young. And it's difficult to teach yourself to love them if you weren't brought up with them. And so it's so important, and I think that's a really fun idea to make the robot on your child's plate. And I haven't heard of many kids that eat red pepper as a snack. So it's amazing.
I think for us as parents, if we maybe miss the opportunity for ourselves, it's definitely something that we can start implementing into our daily routine for the benefit of our children, and also for their children, because it'll be their routine. Like I remember when we had the water shortages, our kids were bathing in buckets, and the water shortages were over, but the buckets still continued as bath time. And they have developed, like you said, there's tiny habits that they've taken it through. Even with the power shortages, when the power's out, they still go through every room and switch off all the lights, because that's the habit that we've entrenched in them, which will affect their generation and the generations to come. And we can do that with how we teach them to look after themselves and their bodies and minds too.
Definitely. A big one that I wish, let's say, more of the generation above us focused on, because a lot of people struggle with, is just drinking water because of juice and cold drinks, and a lot of people just don't like the taste of water, when it's actually just the most natural thing to put in your body. And it's a really important one to just push with kids, and obviously adults too.
It's actually really interesting about water. So our kids really love water, and I think one of the defining factors to make it something that they learned to love was, from a very young age, we made the water dispenser available at a low height, so they could independently go and get the little cup and go dispense their own water, drink their water, and then put their cup down. So it was something that was they could do on their own, and it became something that they felt proud of. And water drinking then has become a habit, like a tiny habit that they've just continued with.
Yeah, because I mean, then it wasn't something they were being forced to do; it was a choice.
And it was a fun activity that reward was independence at a young age. Even though there's water all over the floor. Can deal with that now. Well, actually, our two younger kids, they now know where the cloths are to mop up the water. So they'll spill, drink their water, and then go fetch the cloth, wipe it up. So
that's incredible. Yeah, so it's all round win.
It's so easy, you're right. It's so easy to just lean to a fruit juice or a fizzy drink or something that is quick, and water is there, water is available, and our bodies just so they thrive on it. And I say thank you when you drinking it.
Yeah. And I mean, our bodies can't really distinguish if you're hungry or you're full. And so if you're not in the habit of drinking plenty of water, you can just be constantly hungry, which is a problem for a lot of people. And so and there's a common, or not so common, depending, misconception that if you drink water with food, it can't be digested, which is completely untrue. So I always advise people, especially if it's in between meals and excessive snacking, just to drink like 2 full glasses of water, wait 10 minutes. Are you still hungry? And most of the time it's not, because you were thirsty. It's just a habit. And speaking on tiny habits and anchoring on something, like you can anchor on, for example, like you're always at your laptop. So always keep, if you are always at your laptop, always keep a bottle of water there. Always keep a bottle of water in your car for when you're driving. Make a prompt that, like, whenever your phone rings or you get a message, you have to take a sip of water. the easiest way to change a habit is also just making a prompt. Like we always use the example when you brush your teeth, and put like a sticker on your window, like, have you drank a glass of water this morning, or like drink it before, with like a tiny prompt like that. I think a good prompt is a message, because we're on our phones all the time.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, the things that you've shared about today really, just in summary, is to make sure that you are managing your stress, to make sure that you're getting enough sleep, that you're looking at the exercise that you're doing, not just for your for health and well-being, but also for gut health, looking at your diet and lifestyle changes, and essentially taking care of your gut health and what you're putting into your body, which will obviously, further support your food for your brain. I'm really excited to continue the conversation with you. We at a later stage are going to connect around habits, I hope, again, some cool habits for a toolkit. Emotional eating, possibly look at disordered eating or eating disorders, and many other conversations to come. I know that the nutrition side of mental health and wellness is your passion and your focus, and I'm really excited to continue the conversation with you. So thank you so much.
Me too. Thank you so much, Roxy. I'm looking forward to our next chat.